We're a group of Gen Xers who became aware of our neurodiversity later in life. Join us as we share stories, interesting topics, and talk to special guests. Welcome to Season 2 of This Is How My Brain Works.
Hello, America and the rest of the world, and perhaps anyone listening from alien nations, species, planets, however you talk about aliens of another, ilk, beings of another ilk. I would like today to introduce myself, start there with Sarah Hines. Y'all, welcome. My name is Sarah Hines. Welcome, all of you. And I'm joined today only by Krista Gano, but because there's two of us, it's fine. We're going to make up for it in large personality. And I have no doubt that this is going to happen for us. And the topic today, drum roll, please. I can't hear her drum roll. I'm a drum roll. Can you hear mine?
No, I'll have to edit in post. Fix it in post.
ADHD and synchronicities. What do I mean by that?
Say more.
Thank God you didn't say less. So synchronicities. Today, on my way to school, I saw a murder of crows. And I often see a murder of crows at this one house. And I was like, oh, I love, murder. And the kids in the car, murder. We enjoyed ourselves. And then swooping, diving was a little falcon, like a tiny falcon too, or hawk maybe, swooping with the whatevers, the glorious murder. And we're stopped waiting for the kid who's coming. So like we get to watch this hawk for 5 minutes. It was, anyway. And so we all are like, oh, wow, it's the last day before, a week off of school. This is fabulous. What a sign. Great. Then I get home and I see the squirrel. Oh no, this morning before I went on carpool, the squirrel is along the fence with the neighbor and out my kitchen window, and he stares me down. And I'm like, and he's eating a date that I have left out on the little thing. And I'm like, oh, he's eating the date. And he's like enjoying it. So I go out thinking there must not be much there because he's staring me down. And there's still a few, they've eaten all the walnuts, but there's still a couple pecans and a date. I was like, all right, I'll leave more walnuts because they like that. And I come inside, then I see the next animal, the hawk, and I'm like, wow, a lot of animals today. Then I get home and the squirrel, I'm upstairs doing something for like a good long while. Like I think I showered and I got all ready and it took a long time. And I'm upstairs in the bathroom and I look out and he's sitting on my balcony staring at me again, waiting for me to notice him. I'm like, okay, that's interesting and cool. And I say hi, bick, 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 which is the sound squirrels make, y'all. Bick, bick, bick. So then I come downstairs to get ready for this podcast. And I look outside and a bunny is running, pops into the gate where the mailman enters, stares at me, and then hops all the way up the walkway, staring at me the whole while, and then stops at the closest point on the walkway to me and then just like looks at me for, 2 minutes. It was so long that I was like, I probably should start logging into this podcast, but the bunny is staring at me. I mean, like staring. So it's not so many as anyone else would think, but 4 kind of close encounters, y'all. Close encounters where the eyeball stare. It's the like.
So what do you think? What I mean, our brains are meant to, create organization out of perceived chaos and create and seek patterns and add meaning to things because that's what our brains do. What did you make? What was that meaning? Because I think I don't think we give enough.
It's completely obvious.
Trust.
I'm Cinderella.
Right.
And I've been singing the whole time.
But I don't think we give an, I think this culture has told us that when we see synchronicities that they aren't real, or they aren't, intuition isn't real, or, so when somebody is saying like, if they're, for someone who finds meaning in signs and symbols when they, whether they, when they've had someone pass, or they're looking for signs and symbols from God or whatever it is. I think whatever meaning you attach to it is the meaning that's real for you. And no one else needs to give you permission to do those things. And I think those of us with creative brains who have been writing stories for years and years and years about unseen things, unseen force, in quotes, unseen forces in our world, that people may look at us and say, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy." It's like
Or
becoming a
even,
creative storyteller is just is just it's just an acceptable form of like showing our crazy, I guess. But um, I think there's so much more to this universe than what we give it credit for, and I'm so sad when people exit magic from the equation.
well, I had a lot of magic this morning because it was a lot
Mm.
of animals. It was
Animal magic's
it,
great.
it literally felt like the only thing that would make it funnier is if one were to pop up right now and be like, "Hi, you missed us."
They might keep a lookout.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they will actually.
But I mean, I am sort of serious in terms of like, I mean, we're all energy, we're all sentient beings, all the things. So, um, and we've obviously had a lot of disclosure this last week about possible, I don't know. I don't think it's as simple
What are
as
you talking
aliens.
about?
Oh, the alien disclosures.
Oh, I don't know. Do tell. I love it.
Are you serious? You
No,
haven't
I'm
been
dead serious.
Are you really? Oh yeah,
Well, I mean, I
Congress
know
had.
that there's been dribs and drabs from like top secret clearance stuff that has come out.
Oh
But
no, they're pretty clear letting us know that they have been living in the oceans for like generations
wait, what?
now. Yeah. The aliens live in the ocean. They're not coming from they're flying in the sky, but apparently they're living in the ocean.
Who, where, when, source?
Congress,
I love Congress. But
a
is this like the
hearing.
wait, time out. Is this like the Matt Gaetz fringe
Oh,
Congress or legit?
sorry, I don't know what happened. My Siri is just like wanting to like talk lately to me. What
She
did you
likes
just
us.
say? I
So
know.
this is like the fringe Matt Gaetz, or is this like the legit?
No, they had a hearing.
Trying to think of a legit Congress person having
They no, they
trouble.
had a hearing this week where they had people who were head of the Navy, like people from the Navy, it was like 4 or 5 different people. And this is worldwide. These things are sort of showing up all over the world. They think they know several different areas in particular where these ocean hot spots are. And what we all laugh about, I think, out here in this part of the world, these
Colorado landlocked.
these military the military people are showing real concern for just not knowing what it is, but because they're starting to hover around nuclear sites, I believe. They're starting to interfere with Air Force bases. They've had to change
It can't be foreign
flight
nations.
patterns.
Why not?
No, because apparently they've admitted that they have captured some of this tech and are trying to reverse engineer it, and that it's not of this world. And neither is the life. They're using a different word. It's not life because they're not life forms. It is matter that is biological matter. I don't know what these are things I don't understand, but it's real. And
You heard
there's
it here last, people, with me.
I think most people know. I don't believe you haven't like heard all this. I mean, this was 2 days of hearings. You can
They're
go listen
living
to
in
it.
the oceans. I
They're in
really
the
have to
oceans.
know, y'all. Last,
They're in the oceans.
which
So,
ocean?
and
Okay, did they say which? Where?
yeah, there's a map. There's maps on them. There's like one outside of
San Diego.
sort of, yes, San Diego into Mexico
Oh,
is
I
one area.
know. I saw.
The Bermuda Triangle is another hot spot. There's an area outside of sort of like Africa, Middle East, like around in that space or world where these crafts that sort of look they have tentacles. It's weird. These crafts have been hovering and they're showing them and and the military's trying to shoot them down and the military can't. And like, I mean, there's stuff.
This just takes me right back to, I've already talked to you guys, I believe, about my octopus friend, not the movie, my own personal octopus friend.
Oh my gosh.
Have I not said this?
Do you have an
story?
alien friend?
No, but I had an encounter with an octopus and I can't eat octopus even remotely at all.
Well,
anymore.
First of all, I don't.
Oh,
like
I love
octopus,
it. I did not
You
mind.
loved it?
Yeah, especially, yeah, I'm just not even going to talk about it. It actually upsets me to talk about how much I loved it because of my octopus friend. But I was at an aquarium in Dauphin Island, Alabama. It's a teeny tiny aquarium near some NOAA sites as well. That's the National or Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Administration.
Gotcha.
NOAA. Anyhow, they have those horseshoe crabs that the blue blood is donated to. It's like something medical, and they're extremely important. But I've seen horseshoe crabs. I'm hoping that others out there have and talk to us about them because they're really cool. I have a thing for them. Anyway, I would eat them. I don't have a thing like octopus. So we're at the aquarium. We're the last ones. It's about to close. And they have those, like the tubes, that go from like the ceiling to the floor as an aquarium, one of those. But it actually ended at like at your knees. So it went to the ceiling to your knees. And it was maybe a diameter of 12 inches, maybe 14, more like 12, 14. Anyhow, there's an octopus in there and it's moving around. And so I start to tap the glass and it starts to climb where I'm tapping. And then it would get to the top and go hide. And then we did it again. And we kept playing this game for a few minutes, like 5 minutes. And it was very repetitive. And I would even like walk away and then come back and tap, and it would come running and climb the wall again and then go hide. And I would walk away, etc. So I go outside to see the horseshoe crabs because I told you I like them. And I'm looking at all of them and I come back in and they're closing. And I had to walk through the hallway where you could see the tube for the octopus. And I glance over and he has jumped out and is climbing because he sees that I've walked by. And I don't know how to explain how much it was a relationship. I made a relationship with an octopus in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I was not imagining it. It was my friend. It liked me. I liked it. We had a little good fun time together. The way you play with a little kid in line at Disneyland for the line, you have a moment with that person and you're like, oh, I have warm, fuzzy feelings about that person. That's how I felt. And it was an octopus. And I was like, wow,
we are having a very big animal day for you. Like, I think maybe you should do some journaling around animals and find out.
I'm not a vegetarian, which feels like,
you can love animals and not be a vegetarian. I know that's a hot take, you guys, but you can
it is a hot take. People would say that I obviously don't love them if I eat them and participate in.
Hold on, that is, but that's also, I think, participating in the binary of thinking that I think has gotten us into a place that's very tough relationship wise in this
tough
country.
To navigate out of, at least.
Sure.
So,
yeah. I mean, because if every little thing that you don't like becomes the other with zero grace, like that person can't possibly like animals and still eat animals. If that becomes then that person, now you're othered for that, then where do we start with connection? When you're constantly finding reasons to not connect. That's a really interesting thing around, and it's an interesting thing about synchronicity too. It's like, Boulder County School District just made the rule last night that there's no more cell phones in schools.
They
And
did?
yeah, and or at
Whoa.
least the preliminary. I don't know if they've got like public, comment before they do, I don't know the process, but yes. And I think they're the second school district in Colorado to do this. And I think we will notice, I believe that it's probably going to become something that spreads and they're citing the very real um data coming out about how social media has separated our kids from being able to connect and talk and the things that were and are into the binary thinking and all of that stuff and so I find it I think what's tough in Colorado with that is the fear that the very real fear that we have with our children in school shootings and not that everyone in the country doesn't have that same fear. I think we have a unique brand of it in Colorado because of our history. And
Number one in a number of categories for school shootings.
correct. And it's so funny because the thoughts that come up for me when I hear this is like, oh my goodness, it would scare the crap out of me to have my kid without a phone. And then I have to remember, like we were in schools happily without phones.
Furthermore,
And
here's one thing that a hot take on cell phones in schools. My kid went to East High School in Colorado. So in her senior year, there were two separate shootings. One, and rest in peace, Luis Garcia. He was a beloved member of the soccer team, and that was really rough for the whole school. And then later in the year, another young man who went on to trigger warning. Skip forward 30 seconds. He went on to take his own life after he had brought a ghost gun to school and had been spooked into, from what I understand, the teachers would say, spooked into shooting the two teachers who were supposed to inspect his backpack per all these, background. Anyhow, she was on a train in New York City and texted me, "There's a shooter in the car next to me, Mom. I love you." And that was it. And my first reaction was to text her back, which caused her phone to ding. She, at that point, had already gotten out and was fine. But our phones don't make us safer. Like, yes and no. And so it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of something like that. I'm sure that someone could, and we don't need to get into a pissing match in comments or anything, but I'm sure there are people who were saved by their cell phone too. So,
absolutely, because I mean, one of the more recent shootings,
might be
the cops were alerted by the kids. One of the more recent ones, not in Colorado, but in a different state. The cops were initially alerted by the kids, the teenagers who were in a separate room that they heard shots. So it goes both ways for sure. And I don't know if because I'll tell you.
But you just said magic things. So the kids were in another room. They alerted. Theoretically, they were in another room. Legally, had to be in another room with a teacher who has a parent.
Sure.
I would assume personal items and an ability to text.
Sure.
Or call 911.
Sure. And and I would also say on the flip side of this situation, my youngest, they lost a classmate this week to unaliving himself. And so there's the argument to be made that you've got kids who are also struggling so highly with mental health, and that we know a contributor to mental health deterioration are these phones. So there's definitely, I think there's like everything, there's arguments and things to consider on both sides of the worry. But I do think that we are missing so much magic, bringing us back to synchronicity by not being in relationship with one another anymore. by not having tough conversations with one another. I mean, I'll tell you,
By not making eye contact,
by
like
not.
I did with the squirrel.
Do you know, now I'm going to make, gosh, this is a crazy pants episode. So in the
Little
book that
squirrel and
is,
ADHD, you get it?
got
Yeah.
it. This one of the books that is being highly recommended right now to read for everyone's reading pleasures on tyranny, for political reasons to read. And in that book, chapter 12 on the ways that you fight fascism and or tyranny is eye contact and small talk. Say it louder.
Yeah, but you have to say it when you whisper, people lean in to hear you.
I see. But it was this, and so it was this really interesting chapter about how it is so much harder to turn in your neighbors, to be a jerk, to whatever, if you are passing by people and looking them in the eye and saying, "Hi, how's your day today? I just did it yesterday."
You want to know what you're pulling into potentially? So I have been, because this is what I do to my poor, we're going to hear a lot about my carpool kids. We listened to the book by Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit, and we just got to the part where Rosa Parks refuses to give up her seat. And he says, there were people, many, many people who did this before Rosa, but the reason, or we should give her honor, Mrs. Parks, but the reason it worked with her was for two types of social ties: weak social ties and strong social ties. The weak social ties are the ones you have at church, clubs, other affiliated groups. Strong are like your besties, your, 2 or 5 or however many besties you have. And so what you're talking about are the weak ties. When you make with your neighbor, when you smile and nod and you're going to see them every single day. So for example, I'm candidate B supporter, but all of my neighbors are candidate A supporters. I'm probably not going to put out a candidate B supporter sign because I still want to go to the barbecues and the Halloween party.
Right.
And
right.
The evidence that he used, Charles Duhigg, just to give him a plug, to talk about weak social ties was that they did a survey of the people who did the Freedom Summer and went down to Mississippi to register voters. And the ones who followed through were the ones who had weak and strong social ties pushing them towards it. And those who had strong ties pushing them towards it, but weak ties not pushing them towards it, that was more critical than the other way around. So those weak social ties are really, really, really critical in making us take social action as a group.
Well, and I think, for me,
to fight tyranny.
To fight tyranny.
Smile.
But
Say hi.
For me, it is, I think that training came from being in entertainment. Because you are ruthlessly taught, at least not in my day of entertainment, that it's like you need to be equally as kind to the people on your way up and on your way down, because this business, there's very few that get the privilege of being on the upside of their career, their whole career. It is a very volatile career. So you need to make sure that you are being kind up and down and up again. And so you don't, and the other thing about it is that, which is true, I think, for many industries, but I just know mine, is that you don't always know who you're talking to. You don't know always what an executive looks like, or what, because they don't go around in a suit and a tie, and they don't look a certain way necessarily. Well, I can spot them now most of the time, but when you don't know, you don't know, right? And it's like, and so there was, and that could be true from when people were doing business more in person in general. This idea that you must extend kindness to others and understanding and listening, because that's how we do business. And And that's
Mm.
really gone away, I think, for like, and especially when you have a kiddo like I do who is autistic. Like this, I mean, the amount of effort that goes into eye contact, high, small talk, it is incredibly performative. It is not fun, all the things. And so, and we'll leave places and he'll look at me and say, I don't understand how you do it.
Mhm.
And I'll say, do what? And he'll say, just talk to anybody like that. And I don't think until recently, understanding my own space of where I am, that I was able to say, oh, kiddo, I'm masking the fuck out of that. Like, don't get that wrong. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not
Well, I'm
like,
struggling. Yeah, I'm
I,
struggling here
s-
with.
I
Oh,
put on my persona, my, hi, oh my gosh, how's your dog? Oh my, really? Oh, well, I hope he feels better. Like, I mean, it's become easier over the years, but that is not my natural state of bliss.
okay, so then I want to know, do I have a problem? I'm
Why would
struggling
you have
with
a problem?
something because what you're describing is me. Like I do that,
Yeah.
but I love to do it. Like
No,
for
that's not a problem.
me, what you're describing is I want to look someone in the eye and meet them exactly where they are and hear what they want to say.
No, it's just
I might
probably
learn.
your joyful hyperfocus.
Oh, that's the worst combo of words I've ever heard. Oh, joyful hyperfocus. Never have I been
Why?
more insulted than when I was called a morning butterfly by my carpool, the mother of my carpool buddy. Oh, you're such a morning butterfly, aren't you? You're just such a joyful, Ah.
Listen, this world needs joy. You like listen, if you are gonna go around in the world as a transmuter of shit energy into joy, thank God for you.
I do enjoy doing it. Yes.
And my rule, I think, is for me, it's like I have spaces where I don't have to be that. Like I have spaces where I can be at home. I can, I don't have, but
Mhm.
I do believe that when I am out in the world, that part of my job, or it's not a job, part of the thing I would like to do when I'm out in the world is smile to the person who hasn't been smiled at, who through the grocery line, the poor, there's a guy who speaks who I don't go to the grocery store anymore because I'm too freaked out by people, but and I spend too much money. But there was a guy who was bagging groceries there for a while who clearly new to this country, didn't speak a lot of English, and I think it was like near Christmas or something. And all I did was I said, gracias for bagging my groceries and then Feliz Navidad. And literally he got tears in his eyes.
Oh.
He smiled and he was like, oh, gracias. It occurred to me that I may have been the only person to look him in the eye and talk to him that day in his own language. And like the way that feels to never be witnessed or to not be witnessed or to be set aside is so to me hard to think about living your life that way that when I am out in the world, I do think it's very important to make the eye contact, even if it's a masking thing, even if I walk away and I get in my car and go, oh, and God, that's over. Even if that is how I feel, I find it incredibly important to walk through the world
Yes,
in
ditto,
those ways. Yeah.
sister, ditto.
So I'm not sure how that ends with synchronicity because we're almost out of time. But I do think that is
Well, I
and I
mean, I
want to
think,
be careful for all of our other neurospicy people out there. It is worth it. I think that we're in a time period where we're also like, it's okay to be exactly who you are. That we're also not saying that we're allowing people to sort of not participate in social mores that have been a cornerstone of our lives for many, many generations. And I want to be careful that we don't all like get so so dependent on our comfort that we don't connect with others.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't,
I mean, we're so like in our like headphones, hoodies. We are as a culture becoming more and more, and I do it too, by the way. I will go to a grocery store, walk around, and I have my headphones in and I'm listening to music or a book or whatever, like, but we can become so insulated in ourselves because it is so much more comfortable than being out in the world and having to interact with people we don't know. But it's also a root cause, I believe, of where we are in this country is that we are isolating ourselves in comfort or perceived comfort so highly that we are losing genuine connection.
so maybe
And
here's how synchronicity fits with that is, even in those hyper insular moments, there tend to be, or hyperinsular days, there tend to be moments where the synchronicity is happening. We are being interrupted. And sometimes, to your point, those interruptions to our comfort don't feel very comfortable. But if I find that if I can breathe through them, I tend to be okay. So you were talking about, let me give an example. I go into a store, there's a woman who's clearly, or man, clearly hungry for conversation. And so I start to talk with, I inadvertently get in conversation with them, and I realize it's going to be 15 minutes with this person. And I have that moment of like, fuck me. There's 15 minutes where I was just about to go get, pardon my French, everybody. Something I was looking forward to is now being pushed off. And that's that moment where I'm trying to cleave to what's comfortable to go get that thing, the hot chocolate or, lunch, whatever it was that I was. And this person I'm talking to has made me uncomfortable. And I don't know how I remember, but I typically have this moment of, what a jerk you are, Sarah. So that the bonus of having the ADHD talking in my head.
correct.
What a jerk you are, Sarah. This person is like so desperate and you're half-assing it. It's only gonna like stop, surrender and be kind. And then I do. And like every time. And I wish I knew what the trigger was other than this desire not to be a narcissist. Because that's what it feels like.
I'm just warning everybody, this is going to be a long episode because I know we're out of time, but I don't care because now we finally got to the crux of something that I think is really important to talk about, which is that we, as Neurospicy folks, are highly often, and I just got chills, so now I know it was right for me to say that, are highly sensitive beings. And so what we tend to do sometimes is to try to shut that out because it can feel like it's too much. We're always sort of managing our sensory loads, right? That's what we're always doing. But what synchronicity truly is actually allowing the world, energy, universe, whatever, God, whatever you want to do around you, to push you into certain directions or to provide opportunities. And so when you shut yourself,
or flow through you, even just flow through you,
which sucks sometimes. It doesn't feel great.
You have to let it flow through.
You gotta let it go.
Like and you are the vessel sometimes for whatever it is for that person, and be a good vessel. Because you know what? Someday you're going to need someone to be a vessel for you.
100%. And I think one of the things we have to always remember is that it's all temporary, right? The moment that you're asked out of your comfort zone to speak to the person for 15 minutes at the grocery store, to say Feliz Navidad to the friend, to have the guy who I had a guy who would walk me out to help me with my groceries to my car. And he really just wanted to tell me his story and pray with me. He told me his story. He had a car accident and had suffered a brain injury. So I heard this story over the years, probably 15 times. because he was I don't, is it aphasic when you don't remember? But he didn't remember. And so, but what he did know, or what he sensed, was that I was someone who would take the walk with him. And so I do think that the more, and there are days that you have to shut off. I get it. There are days you got to wear the headphones, you got to do the things, you just can't take in the input. But I do think the thing around the synchronicity, to bring us back to why it's important for neurospicy people to be open to it, is that we are more sensitive than others. Therefore, we are the carrier often of that energy. So,
And on a closing note,
there we go.
in the park in San Francisco, Golden Gate Park, if you entered it, I'm bad with north, south, east, west, but on Sunset Boulevard, that way from Sunset Boulevard, there's only one way. And then you would kind of go towards the city itself, and then you can like kind of boomerang back. There was a tree that looked kind of like a boomerang, but it also looked like a chair. And she was my best friend tree growing up. And then they cut her down. She must have been dying, but she was beautiful. I love her. And to this day, I miss her. She kind of looked like that, like finger, like a prong. And then it came down. She was delightful. But yeah, I was hecka sensitive as a kid and weird. Like I loved trees. Come on now.
Trees provide energy too, a lot of
I
energy.
know they have a lot of energy. They're really cool.
So I don't know. Are we the weird ones, or are we the ones who tap in through our sensitivities to something unseen that is just different? And I might argue enviable to some.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't trade it for
Yeah.
sure. Cause yeah,
Yeah.
I like the tingles. I like getting the chills. I like it when my heart feels like it's gonna explode because something connected that felt so special. So yeah,
I like
guess-
holding space. I mean, I do. I really do like holding space for someone in need who does that.
yeah,
It's exhausting. I think it takes me perhaps longer to recover from it,
you probably
but
hold it a lot.
maybe
Your
I
capacity
go
is
through,
great.
and I also go through it in my head 500 bajillion times, wondering if I said too much, if I did okay, if it really was the right thing that person needed, if I didn't. Like there is I think a lot of care for a lot of us on those moments of did we do it right? For example, my kiddo, like I said, who had the classmate, not friends, but classmate who died this past weekend, we had a long talk about how you support your friends who knew that person better than you. And I think the tendency is to go like, I'm just not going to say anything because I don't want to say anything wrong.
Or I don't know what.
Or I don't know what to say. And so we actually talked about the Jewish, tradition of sitting Shiva,
Mhm.
and that sometimes it's just sitting down and sitting with someone, and that's okay. And, sharing energy. And I don't know about you, and everyone's going to think I'm a little probably hooey, but there are times where I will sit down with somebody who is like that, and I will imagine pouring as much of my love energy into them as possible, and imagine what it would look like if their soul was buoyed by that. And I don't know if it matters, if it changes anything, if it helps, but in the moments where you feel like you have nothing that you can do, that active send of energy and prayer allows me to feel like I helped, even if it's unseen.
What I try to do is imagine my heart beating over their heart.
Oh, that's
Keep their
beautiful.
heart beating because I can really picture it in my head.
Yeah,
The
that's
Sacred Heart of
beautiful.
Jesus kind of idea, like it
Yeah.
with the glow that comes out, like that's my heart calling
Yeah.
them in and filling their heart as I beat. And like with
Yeah.
each breath, I'm able to
Yeah.
redirect that energy and flow.
That's
That's how
beautiful.
I pray, but it's
I love that.
so anyway,
I love that. All right. Well,
that's it, y'all.
Does
We've
it?
talked a long time, maybe
Yep.
a lot of time. It was maybe synchronicity. So synchronous means time. So there you go. Got extra time, little Lanya. We love you. We can't wait to talk to you again, and be well.
And the guys will be back. We promise.
yeah. They're
All right.
seizing their synchronous moments. You guys go out and do the same. Take care.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like more info on the hosts, guests, and topics, check out the show notes. Thanks for listening.